Hey guys, how you doing today? Just out for a walk. I'm going to be straight up with you. Stayed up all night. I stayed up all night last night because I found out that the Parliament is going to have a vote on whether or not to acknowledge the Uighur genocide in China. I'm very disappointed to see that Jagmeet Singh is gung-ho about it, and he might be joining forces with the Conservatives on this issue. I'm deeply skeptical of this Uighur genocide, and I think that I have good reason to be deeply skeptical. I'd like to go through my reasoning and my rationale for why I am skeptical of this, and why I think it is foolhardy to push forward with the information that we have on this particular issue. So, first and foremost in my mind, let's actually stop and think about who we're talking about, who's making the accusations, right? We're talking about the United States. What's the United States' actual track record on this kind of stuff? What do you think? Do you guys remember the weapons of mass destruction argument? Do you guys remember how the United States lied its way into a war that is still unfolding, right? Do you guys remember how they were so interested in destroying a country to steal its oil that they were willing completely to fabricate evidence, to create a narrative, weapons of mass destruction, right, in order to get into that region? So there is no scale of lying that the state is not willing to do. We have the evidence of that. It was right in front of our faces. I worry that there's a younger generation who might be a little more starry-eyed when it comes to this, and if you just tell a big enough lie, right, people seem to have this thing built into them that says, oh, it has to be true because there's no way they would tell a lie that big, right? Well, yes, they will. And so I continue doing some research on this Uighur genocide, as it's called, and I find out, okay, where's the majority of this information coming from, right? It turns out that the majority of the information about the Uighur genocide comes from an individual named Adrian Zenz, right? He's a German evangelical Christian who has said things like, we are on a crusade by God to destroy China, right? So, real trustworthy source of information here. And he ends up being like the core source for a lot of this kind of stuff. Can we believe that this could be a manufactured narrative? Can we believe that maybe this is a bit hasty? And so I keep doing some research and I keep looking about. Okay, well, why would the United States be interested in this region in China? Xinjiang, right? That's where this supposed genocide is occurring, Xinjiang, right? Well, it turns out that China has 3 oil fields in Xinjiang, right? And Xinjiang, interestingly, is directly on the border of Afghanistan, right? Maybe not directly on the border, but the United States military has taken over Afghanistan, and they have many military bases in Afghanistan. It is a hop, skip, and a jump into the Xinjiang region, right? And if you are a bloodthirsty, murderous, oil-crazy nation like the United States is, the only nation to actually be declared a terrorist state by the Hague, then you look at those oil fields and think, I could go over there and get those from those subhuman people, right? That's how the United States thinks about the rest of the world, and I have all of human history to show for that. So, where it gets really interesting, okay? So our media is pounding on the pulpit and pounding on the pulpit and pounding on the pulpit about how this is a genocide. There's a genocide happening. We need to declare this a genocide. I keep asking for evidence. I keep looking around for evidence, and all I keep running into is this Adrian Zenz guy, who, I used to be a Christian evangelical. I know full well how often they're willing to lie, and I know how often the state is willing to lie. So, it wasn't until I actually started, like, I got into YouTube, and it dawns on me, oh, let's get into YouTube, and I would like to see if there are people who have actually gone to Xinjiang, right? I want to see if there are people who have gone to Xinjiang and walked around the region. Certainly, if there is an ongoing, unfolding genocide in the Xinjiang region, there is absolutely no way that they are going to allow people to walk around the region, recording things, interviewing people, talking about Uyghurs, talking to Uyghurs, right? There's absolutely no way that they're going to do that. Turns out that's completely wrong. I actually highly advise, go onto YouTube, type in Xinjiang travel. You're gonna find dozens of videos from dozens of people who have gone into the Xinjiang region. And one young lady gave a very interesting historical perspective of what has happened in the region and why the Uyghur camps were actually erected. And she pointed out that, look, there were terrorist attacks because Xinjiang is on the border of Afghanistan, right? You have radicalized Muslims coming into the region right during the period of time when China is increasing its economic status. And of course, the people who are capable of speaking Chinese are the ones who benefit most from that economic upswing, and the people who can't get left behind, right? This isn't a direct policy. This isn't a genocidal act that they're inflicting on that populace. It's an oversight, right? There's like 1 billion people living in China. You can see how it may be an oversight. And so this creates tensions in the region that ultimately explode in a series of riots and terrorist attacks drawn between Uyghur and Han down those lines, right? And so the Chinese government moves in because there's riots happening, right? Because there's military action, or not military action, but there is distress in the populace happening. And they ask very cleanly, well, what the hell happened here? How did this happen? And so the way that they have chosen to move forward is to create education camps where Uyghur people can learn Chinese so that they can be part of the wider economy, where they can get connected to jobs, where they can get connected to these sorts of things. And this is what the American media is turning around and calling a genocide. When what's fascinating to me and what's absolutely wild, I looked at this video. Like, go see these videos, the Xinjiang video, the Xinjiang travel video, and there are people speaking to police officers who are Uyghurs. It just becomes very difficult for me to maintain this idea that this is a genocide. Like, I am supposed to be convinced that what's going on in the Uyghur region is on the same level as the Holocaust. Well, how many Jewish guards were there in Auschwitz, right? Like, they're hiring Uyghurs to be police officers. They're hiring Uyghurs to be security officers and security guards. It's a bit hard to take, to believe that such a horrible atrocity would be happening to a people who would then turn around and join the Chinese state sector, right? Join the Chinese police department, join these organizations, while simultaneously undergoing like a large-scale genocide. And I feel like I have reason to be skeptical, right? I feel like I have reason to be skeptical. Like, the Americans have shown over and over and over again their willingness to destroy countries. They've shown over and over and over again their willingness to invade places, and especially if they have oil, which Xinjiang does, right? Xinjiang has oil. And And then at the same time, I'm forced to think to myself, well, isn't this interesting how simultaneously, like directly after Joe Biden says that they are going to stop committing to offensive measures in Yemen, the genocide that they're committing in Yemen with the Saudi Arabians, and our help, by the way, that the moment that Joe Biden says we're going to stop these offensive measures in a war that they call defensive, by the way, so much for that offensive measures idea, but pretty much straight after Joe Biden says this, suddenly our media ramps up, suddenly our political apparatus ramps up and starts really, really putting the fire on the Chinese Uighur genocide. The timing of it is a bit, let's say, suspicious, right? That at the same time that the president is highlighting their own and our own complicity in the worst genocide going, well, not one of the worst genocides that we are involved in. Oh, man. That we are, that at the same time that we are involved, that we are revealing our involvement in this genocide, and we are admitting that we need to be pulling out of this genocide, suddenly we start talking about the Uighur situation. And it's based on, like, where's the smoking gun? Where's the picture even, right? Like, where's the photographs? We have more evidence about the Guantanamo Bay atrocities, right, than we have about these Uighur encampments. And we're supposed to be declaring it a genocide. And we're supposed to be condemning these people. And this is a dangerous thing to do, right? This is an incredibly dangerous thing to do. This is how wars happen. This is how nations go to war with one another, right? And this has all of the appearances. These have all the appearances of being a fabricated casus belli, right? A casus belli is the reason to go to war, right? And the Americans are not above fabricating this casus belli and saying, oh, we are going to go into the region to liberate the Uyghurs. Who, if you go watch these videos, man, watch these videos. There are Uyghurs just walking around, like shopping, like working in shopping malls, right? Going to dance clubs, singing karaoke, right? Just living like what would be considered to anyone a relatively normal life, right? Like, obviously they live in China, so there's going to be pretty major cultural differences, but they're living a normal life by any standard, right? They go work a job, they go get their food, they eat their food, they sleep, they go back to work, right? Sounds exactly like we're doing, right? And anytime anybody starts throwing stones like, oh, you're not allowed to have a long beard or wear a hijab or anything, it's like, yeah, like in Quebec, right? Like how Quebec banned hijabs. And so I'm deeply skeptical of all of this. And I'm deeply concerned that our government is going to support this idea that there is a Uyghur genocide, just like we support the false interim leader Guaido in Venezuela, right? We shouldn't do it. We should be better. We should wait for a UN report. We should wait for actual information, right? Because what I'm seeing right here doesn't warrant the heightened level of ridiculousness that we're seeing. And I would like Jagmeet Singh to maybe slow his roll a little bit, reanalyze the evidence, and take a look at who is providing that evidence. Because I think he might just be the Colin Powell in this situation. All right, guys, this is the end of this one. Like, share, subscribe. I love you all. Good luck. Don't let these guys gaslight you. Good luck. We're going to need it.